Hey, fight fans, this is Ted Czech from MMA Explosion. Yeah, Tom, what's up, man?
Hi, how's it going?
Hey, it's been a while, man.
Yeah, happy belated New Year, everybody.
Happy frickin' New Year, Christmas, Chanukah, Kwanzaa, all that good stuff. All right. Hey, Tom, let's get right to it. This is our year-end special, 5 days into the new year.
Yeah, well, now it's a year beginning special. 2010, remember?
Yeah. All right, let's get right to it. I'm going to take kind of the Pennsylvania East Coast thing, and then you're going to go into kind of the national, international stuff.
Yep.
Tim Boach from Sunbury, he won 2 fights outside of the UFC, and then he got back into the UFC. I don't know if you remember that, Tom. So that was awesome. And then he had a couple fights in the UFC, and so hopefully, I haven't heard anything that he's been cut. I think he won one and lost one. So hopefully he's still in. Charlie Brenneman signed with the UFC.
Cool.
And from Hollidaysburg, he went 1-1. Phil Davis also from Harrisburg. Phil Davis signed with the UFC. He beat Brian Stan, who used to live here in the state. Phil Davis won all his fights. He had like 3 or 4. He was very prolific last year, and I believe he was and still remains undefeated. So he's looking at a great 2011. Eddie Alvarez from Philadelphia, he beat Josh Neer, and then he beat Roger Huerta at I think that was Bellator 33 in Philadelphia. And then we also had Philly fighter Zach Makovsky, who won the Bellator bantamweight title. And then a guy named Mike C. He's known as Mike C. because his last name is pronounced Seslanevich. He's been around for a long time. He's a former Milicic fighter. I believe he fought in the IFL. I believe he's fought in the UFC as well. He's from this area or somewhere in Pennsylvania, and he's a good friend of Tim Boach's. He actually spent a little bit of time at York's Academy of Combative Arts, which was a great asset for them. And then moved on to Las Vegas. Locally, Tom, we had a ton of events. Now I'm going to call Greg Serb, who's the executive director of the State Athletic Commission, to get the tally of how many events we had, the attendance, how much the gates were, how much money they collected and all that. But I mean, we had promotions like Locked in the Cage, Matrix Fights, Central Pennsylvania Warrior Challenge, Cage Fight, XFE Cage Wars, Thunder in the Dome, Pennsylvania Fighting Championships. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I mean, we just had a ton of events, and I feel really bad that I couldn't get to a lot of those. And we had things like the Philly MMA Expo, which is actually coming up again pretty soon. We had things like Larry Novak with Tattoo Fightwear. He introduced his statement series. We had 3 shirts. There were special shirts that were designed. Play the hand you're dealt, rise above, and make a statement. That was great. Then we had standout fighters. It's the year-end special. I'm out of breath.
Oh, yeah,
I'm out of breath. Standout fighters like Chris Redline Wing, Zulu Anyanwu, Dwayne Bastris, Justin Scott, Brett Myers, Tim Williams, Jimmy the Kid Hedis, Alicia Haig, James Cianci, Jay Haas, Ryan Harder, Eric Albright. I mean, just a ton of great fighters, man, and which made for a ton of great fights. I would say the one that stood out for me was Dwayne Bastris against Tim Williams at the last Locked in the Cage. I believe it was Locked in the Cage 6 in Philadelphia. I watched that online, and that was just a spectacular fight. Stopped in the 3rd round from the doctor called the fight. Dwayne, was having problems with his eye. So I mean, but just a spectacular fight. Those guys really went at it. Yeah. And so hopefully we'll see a rematch so that we can have a definitive winner of that, the AMAC title, which was the title that Paul Miles created, like a regional Mid-Atlantic title. So I'm just looking forward to the year we're in now, 2011.
Yeah. I mean, Pennsylvania is like officially a major player in the sport.
Absolutely, it is definitely. And then New York hopefully is on the horizon. There is a big charge to open up that state. It's just a matter of convincing the legislators,
Yeah.
And so hopefully it's led by guys like Sambo Steve. There's a guy named Sambo Steve who's really kind of at the forefront of it, and Eddie Goldman who does NHB, No Holds Barred. He has a podcast. Those 2 guys are kind of spearheading the effort to convince the New York politicians to really get on the program.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, best of luck to him.
Yeah.
That'd be. I mean, you can see what it's done for Pennsylvania. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Just think of what it's done for the economy in terms of bringing people into here.
Yep.
We've seen it here at the Central Pennsylvania Warrior Challenges. Lots of people coming in, spending money, patronizing local businesses, patronizing local business people. It's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It's a win-win situation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tom, tell us about UFC, Strikeforce, Bellator.
Okay,
all that stuff.
boy, what a huge year it's been. Lots of big fights, unexpected wins, lots of excitement. Here's just some of the highlights.
Yeah.
Shogun Rua beat Lyoto Machida, KOing him to win the light heavyweight title in a rematch between the two Brazilians that many fans thought Rua should have won the first time around.
Right.
Please forgive me if I go a little bit fast here, but it's just so much.
Run through it, Tom.
Brock Lesnar had a tumultuous year as the heavyweight champ. He got his clock cleaned by Shane Carwin in round one of their fight, only to come back and submit him in round two. Then later in the year, he took on Cain Velasquez and was totally schooled by the American Kickboxing Academy fighter. The most hyped fight of the year, due all to Chael Sonnen and not at all to Anderson Silva, was Chael Sonnen
versus Anderson.
Anderson Silva. And Sonnen destroyed Silva, actually made him look human for 4.5 rounds, until out of nowhere Silva pulled out a triangle and Sonnen tapped. Later, Sonnen tested positive for steroids, but at a hearing in Las Vegas, he produced a, quote, note from his doctor, end quote, and got his suspension reduced. Randy Couture beat boxer James Toney, who didn't even know how to tap when he was being submitted.
That's right.
A little bit sad.
I think he was like, "Hey, excuse me, I can't breathe."
Yeah, get my ass kicked here. Can we stop this? Yeah. Awesome year for Georges St. Pierre, beating Dan Hardy and Josh Koscheck by unanimous decision.
Yeah.
And the unheralded Frankie Edgar takes BJ Penn's lightweight title by unanimous decision, then successfully defends it against Penn in another 5-round decision. And then the absolutely sick, wall-flying, Matrix, Ninja, Showtime, Spider-Man kick by Anthony Pettis on Ben Henderson at the last WEC show. Last, because now many of the WEC stars will be in the UFC, thanks to the WEC being folded into the UFC.
Yep. That was big news.
Strikeforce. Who would have thought Fedor would ever lose? I did not myself. I predicted that he wouldn't. Or did we all think that sooner or later, even an emperor is usurped in his own kingdom? Fabricio Werdum will be forever known as the man who beat Fedor, subbing the seemingly invincible Russian in the first round of their fight. Equally as impressive was the debut of football veteran Herschel Walker. Yes, he's a football legend and he is a black belt in Taekwondo, but does that mean he gets to go straight to the pros without any amateur fights? Strikeforce made off Walker's name and threw him a real squash match. Unless they step up to the level of competition he faces, they'll only be fooling the casual fans. Two other guys who were highly touted by Strikeforce lost it when it seemed the organization wanted them to win. King Mo lost by TKO to Rafael Cavalcante, and pro wrestler Bobby Lashley lost by TKO to Chad Griggs. Then we had the final awaited rematch between KJ Nans and Nick Diaz. In the first fight, held about 3 years ago, Nans won by doctor stoppage. This time around, Diaz won by decision. Finally, there was the, quote, night of knockouts, end quote.
It was.
Yeah. On one card, the last 3 fights ended in KOs. Dan Henderson KO'd Babalu Sobral.
Yeah.
That's Babalu Sobral. I just like saying that name.
Babalu
Sobral. Paul Daly KO'd Scott Smith, and Robbie Lawler KO'd Matt Lindland. Bellator.
Yes.
Fans were treated to 2 Bellator seasons in 2010. In the first, former collegiate wrestler Ben Askren was the standout, winning the welterweight title, and Philly's Zach Makovsky won the bantamweight title in the second season of the year. Also, Philly's Eddie Alvarez finally got to fight in front of his hometown crowd, defeating Roger Huerta by TKO in a non-title bout. Pardon me. Now, for Shine Fights. Last but not least, who could forget the one-night, 8-man lightweight Grand Prix put on by Shine Fights?
That was interesting.
Yeah, this tournament had it all. First, they were denied a license by none other than Virginia, which we've taken here to calling the Wild West of MMA.
Because anything goes there in Virginia.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Anything goes.
Yeah, pull it together, guys.
I was shocked that they didn't allow it.
Yeah. And Shine was able to hold their show on an Indian reservation in Oklahoma.
That's where truly anything goes. They'll allow it there. I mean, anyway.
But turned out,
good.
Yeah. Well, long story short, turned out to be a great show. Last minute lineup changes, fighters getting dumped over the ropes or flying through them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. That's
that.
Yeah, Wild West. It's like the equivalent of guys getting thrown through saloon windows.
That's right. The doors, the doors fly open.
Yeah, but speaking of the Wild West, Crazy Horse Bennett, who for once was not in prison.
He was in the tournament, yeah.
Yeah, and in the end, former UFC fighter Drew Fickett was declared the winner.
Yeah,
so,
that was something. And you know, we were just talking, or I was just talking to somebody in here talking about the Strikeforce is now going to have a heavyweight tournament.
Oh, okay.
Not all in one night. But I mean, we got Fedor, we got Fabricio Verdum, who beat him. We've got Overeem, who's the champ. Andrei Arlovsky's going to be in there. Sergey Kharitonov is going to be in there. Josh Barnett. Brett Rogers. I mean, pretty much everybody who's a heavyweight who's not in the UFC is in this tournament. You know, they might even have a stronger heavyweight division than the UFC, or at least it rivals it. You know, so I'm real excited about that. And then of course all the stuff that's going on here in the East Coast. You know, just real excited about everything. So yeah, here's to you know, a kick-ass 2011.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so there you go. There's our year-end wrap-up. It was a little bit long, but we had to get it all in there. And so yeah, look forward to more of these videos from us. Take care.
See you around.